The Tuesday afternoon sun was beating down hard as Derek pulled the company truck into the driveway of a small townhouse. He'd been doing furniture deliveries for almost 3 years now, and honestly, most days just blended together. Wake up at 6, load the truck, follow the GPS, unload heavy stuff, get a signature, repeat. Sometimes people tipped well. Sometimes they barely looked at him. That was just how it went. He checked the work order clipped to his dashboard one more time. Queen-size mattress, 3rd floor apartment, building number 12. The customer's name was printed there too, but he'd learned not to pay too much attention to names. People were just addresses and signatures in this job. Keep it professional, keep it moving, that was the motto. Derek grabbed his hand truck from the back and wheeled it around to start unloading. The mattress was wrapped in thick plastic, and even though it wasn't the heaviest thing he'd delivered that day, it was definitely the most awkward. Mattresses always were. They bent weird, caught on door frames, and seemed to have a personal vendetta against anyone trying to carry them upstairs. He rang the doorbell and waited. Nothing. Rang it again. Still nothing. He was just pulling out his phone to call the number on the work order when the door suddenly swung open. The woman standing there looked like she'd just run a marathon. Her reddish-brown hair was falling out of a bun, and she had these paint stains all over her clothes. Not like house paint either, but the colorful kind that artists use. Bright blues and yellows and reds smeared across what looked like old overalls. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she said, slightly out of breath. "I was in the back room working and I completely lost track of time." "You're the delivery guy, right?" "Of course you are." "Sorry, that was a dumb question." Derek gave her his standard customer service smile. "No problem at all, ma'am. Happens all the time. I've got your mattress here. Where would you like it?" She stepped aside to let him in, still apologizing. "3rd floor, my bedroom?" I know, I should have gotten a place with an elevator or at least on the ground floor. But the light up there is just perfect for painting, you know? I'm an artist. Well, illustrator technically. Freelance. Which means I work from home, which is why I lost track of time, which is why I kept you waiting and I'm rambling now, aren't I? Derek couldn't help but smile for real this time. "It's all good. And hey, 3rd floor isn't bad. Last week I delivered a piano to a 5th floor walk-up. Now that was something. A piano. Oh my God, how did you even manage that?" "Very carefully," Derek said, starting to maneuver the mattress through the doorway. "And with a lot of help." She led him to the staircase, still talking. The woman seemed nervous, the kind of nervous people get when they're alone with strangers in their home. Derek was used to it. He made sure to keep his movements slow and predictable, his voice friendly but not too friendly. It was a careful balance he'd learned to strike over the years. The staircase was narrow, just like he'd expected from looking at the outside of the building. He tilted the mattress on its side and started the climb, taking it slow. The plastic wrapping made weird squeaking sounds against the walls. "Is this the hardest part of your job?" she asked from behind him. "The stairs, I mean?" "Honestly, the stairs aren't so bad," Derek said, pausing on the 2nd floor landing to catch his breath. "The hardest part is probably the traffic. Trying to navigate this city during rush hour with a truck full of furniture. That'll test your patience more than any staircase, I bet. Do you like the job?" It was a question Derek got a lot, and he'd developed a standard answer for it. "It's good work. Keeps me active, pays the bills. Plus I get to see different parts of the city every day, meet interesting people." He left out the parts about his back hurting most mornings, or how he'd originally planned to do something completely different with his life. They finally reached the 3rd floor, and Derek was definitely feeling it. The woman unlocked her apartment door and led him to the bedroom. It was a decent-sized room with big windows, just like she'd said. The afternoon light was streaming in, bright and clear. He could see why an artist would want this space. The bed frame was already set up, which made his job easier. Derek carefully positioned the mattress, making sure it was centered just right. Then he pulled out his box cutter and started slicing through the plastic wrapping. The mattress immediately started expanding, that satisfying whoosh sound as the compressed foam began to return to its normal size. "There you go," he said, stepping back to make sure everything looked good. "You'll want to let it sit for a few hours before putting sheets on it, just to let it fully expand and air out." "Thank you so much," she said. She was standing in the doorway now, leaning against the frame. There was something different about her expression, something Derek couldn't quite read. "You've been really nice about this whole thing, patient. Just doing my job, ma'am." Derek gathered up the plastic wrapping and started heading for the door. He needed to get her signature and move on. He had 2 more deliveries before his shift ended, and traffic wasn't going to get any better. But she didn't move from the doorway right away. Instead, she just looked at him with this weird mix of nervousness and something else. Boldness, maybe. Derek had learned to recognize certain looks from customers over the years. The suspicious look, the impatient look, the grateful look. This was different. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure," Derek said, even though something in his gut told him to just politely decline and leave. She took a breath like she was working up courage. "Do you think timing matters? Like when you meet someone?" Derek honestly had no idea what she was talking about. "I'm sorry, I don't follow. I just mean—" She paused, seemed to reconsider, then just blurted it out. "You're exactly my type, you know that?" The words hit Derek like a physical thing. He actually took a step back, his professional smile completely gone now. His mind was racing, trying to figure out how to respond to this. It wasn't the first time a customer had said something inappropriate to him, but usually it was older women making comments they thought were harmless, or people treating him like he should be flattered by the attention. This felt different, though. She looked immediately embarrassed after saying it, like she couldn't believe the words had actually come out of her mouth, but she'd still said them. Derek stammered, all his careful customer service training momentarily forgotten. "I should really get going. I've got other deliveries." He practically shoved the electronic signature pad at her, not quite meeting her eyes. His hands were shaking slightly, and he hoped she didn't notice. She signed quickly, her own hands seeming unsteady too. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "That was inappropriate. I shouldn't have said that." "It's fine," Derek said automatically, even though he wasn't sure if it was fine or not. "Have a good day, ma'am." He moved past her out of the bedroom, heading for the stairs as quickly as he could without actually running. His heart was pounding in his chest, and not from the physical exertion of carrying the mattress. Behind him, he could hear her following, could feel her eyes on his back as he descended the stairs. "I really am sorry," she called down after him. "I'm going through some stuff and I wasn't thinking clearly." "That's not an excuse, I know, but it's okay," Derek called back, not slowing down. "Don't worry about it." He made it to his truck in record time, practically throwing the hand truck into the back. As he climbed into the driver's seat, he glanced up at the building. He could see her silhouette in one of the third-floor windows, just standing there. He put the truck in gear and pulled out, eager to put distance between himself and this whole weird situation. As he drove toward his next delivery, Derek's mind wouldn't let it go. He kept replaying the moment, her words, the look on her face. Part of him was annoyed, another part was flattered despite himself, and another part was just confused. What was he supposed to do with that? What did she expect him to do? He'd dealt with awkward customer interactions before, but this one stuck with him in a way he couldn't quite explain. There was something in the way she'd said it, something genuine beneath the awkwardness. Not like she was trying to have power over him or make him uncomfortable, but like she'd genuinely just said something she was thinking without meaning to. Derek turned up the radio, trying to drown out his thoughts. He had a recliner to deliver across town, and he needed to focus on that, not on the woman in the paint-stained overalls, or the strange things she'd said, or the way something in his chest had tightened when she'd looked at him. Just another day on the job, he told himself. Just another weird customer interaction to add to the collection. By tomorrow he'd probably forget all about it, except he had a feeling he wouldn't. And that bothered him more than anything else. Derek spent the next 3 days trying not to think about the mattress delivery. He told himself it was just another weird customer moment, nothing more. But every time he climbed back into his truck, every time he rang a doorbell, some part of his brain would flash back to that third-floor apartment. And those words, "You're exactly my type." Thursday morning, his supervisor called him into the office before his route. Derek's stomach dropped. Had she complained? Was he in trouble somehow? But his boss just handed him a new work order and said they needed him to do a pickup at the same address from Tuesday. "Wrong item delivered last week," his boss explained, barely looking up from his computer. "Filing cabinet instead of a bookshelf or something. Customer called it in. Just swap it out, get the right one from the warehouse, standard return." Derek stared at the address on the paper. Of course it was the same place. "You got a problem with this one?" his boss asked, finally looking at him. No problem," Derek said quickly. "I'll handle it." The entire drive over, Derek rehearsed what he'd say. Keep it professional. In and out. Don't make eye contact more than necessary. Just get the filing cabinet and leave. Simple. But when he knocked on the door and she opened it, all his planning went out the window. She looked different today. Less paint-stained, more put together. She was wearing jeans and a regular t-shirt, her hair pulled back neatly, and the moment she saw him, her face did this complicated thing where surprise and embarrassment and something that looked almost like happiness all mixed together. "Oh," she said. "It's you." "Yeah," Derek said, keeping his voice neutral. "I'm here for the filing cabinet pickup." "Right, yes, the filing cabinet." She stepped aside to let him in. "I'm really glad it's you, actually. I wanted to apologize properly for the other day." Derek really didn't want to have this conversation. "You already apologized, ma'am." "It's fine." "It's not fine, though," she said, closing the door behind him. "I've been feeling terrible about it. That was completely inappropriate, and you were just trying to do your job. I put you in a really uncomfortable position, and I'm genuinely sorry." There was something different about her apology this time. Maybe it was because she'd had time to think about it, or maybe it was because she seemed less frazzled. But Derek could tell she meant it. Really meant it. "I appreciate that," he said, and he was surprised to find that he actually did. "Where's the filing cabinet?" "Upstairs, same room." "Of course." She laughed, but it was nervous. "I seem to have a thing for ordering furniture that needs to go to the 3rd floor. I should probably work on that." As they headed up the stairs, she started talking again. But this time it was different. Less rambling, more genuine. "I've been going through a divorce," she said suddenly. "I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I feel like I owe you an explanation. My husband and I split up about 6 months ago, and I moved here to start over, and I've just been all over the place emotionally." That's not an excuse for what I said, but it's the context, I guess. Derek didn't know what to say to that, so he just kept climbing. But something about her honesty made him relax a little. She wasn't making excuses, just explaining. There was a difference. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "Divorce is rough. You been through one?" "No, but my sister has." Watched her go through it. "It's not easy." They reached the 3rd floor and she led him to what looked like a small office room. The filing cabinet was sitting in the corner, clearly never used. She was right. It did look like they'd sent the wrong thing. Derek started examining it, making sure he could move it without taking out any walls. It was heavy but manageable. As he worked, she hovered near the doorway and he could feel her wanting to say something else. "Can I offer you some water?" she asked finally. "It's hot out and those stairs are no joke." Derek's training told him to say no to keep professional boundaries, but his throat was actually dry and something about the way she asked, it felt less like a customer trying to be polite and more like a person trying to make amends. "Sure," he said. "That'd be great, thanks." She practically ran downstairs like she was relieved to have something to do. Derek took the moment alone to breathe. This was weird. The whole situation was weird. But at least it wasn't hostile or uncomfortable in the way he'd feared. She came back with 2 glasses of ice water, and Derek drank half of his in one go. She smiled at that. "Better?" "Much better, thank you." They stood there for a moment, just being 2 people in a room instead of customer and service worker. Then she gestured to the walls, where Derek noticed for the first time there were drawings and illustrations pinned up everywhere. "These are some of my recent projects," she said. "Children's books mostly. Some magazine illustrations. It's how I make my living." Derek moved closer to look. They were good. Really good. Detailed and colorful, with this kind of whimsical quality that he figured kids would love. One was a drawing of a dragon reading a book. Another showed a little girl riding a bicycle through clouds. "These are amazing," he said, and he meant it. "You really think so?" She seemed genuinely pleased. "Do you like art?" "Yeah, actually. I used to draw a lot." Derek surprised himself by saying it. He didn't usually share personal stuff with customers. "Used to? What happened?" Derek shrugged, taking another sip of water. "Life, I guess. I was actually in school for graphic design. Got about 3 years in and then had to drop out. Money got tight, loans were piling up, and I needed a job that paid right away. Been doing deliveries ever since. Do you still draw at all?" "Sometimes. Nothing serious. Just doodles mostly when I'm on break or whatever." Her face lit up in a way that made Derek take a step back.
"Can I see?"
"It's really not that good. I don't care, please." "I'd love to see." Derek pulled out his phone, feeling weirdly self-conscious. He scrolled to his Photos app where he kept pictures of random sketches he'd done. Mostly they were quick drawings on receipt paper or napkins. People he'd seen at coffee shops, his nephew playing basketball, his truck from different angles. Nothing fancy. He handed her the phone, watching her face as she scrolled through them. She took her time with each one, actually looking, not just being polite. When she finally looked up, there was genuine appreciation in her eyes. "You have real talent," she said. "I'm not just saying that. These have life to them, energy. Have you ever thought about getting back into it?" "Can't really afford classes right now," Derek said. "And honestly, it's been so long I wouldn't even know where to start." She handed his phone back, and Derek could see her thinking about something. Finally, she said, "I teach a community art class on Saturday mornings. At the rec center, about 10 minutes from here. It's free. It's casual. Just people who want to draw and paint and learn. You should come." Derek felt that familiar wall go up. This was getting into complicated territory again. "I don't know. I know what you're thinking," she said quickly. "And I promise this isn't me being weird again. It's just, we always need more people in the class, and you clearly have talent. It's a good group. All ages, all skill levels. No pressure." She went to a small desk and pulled out a business card, holding it out to him. "Think about it at least. Class starts at 10, goes till noon. If you show up, great. If not, no hard feelings." Derek took the card more out of politeness than actual interest, but he looked at it. Her name was printed there, along with a phone number and email. Underneath it said illustrator and art instructor. "I'll think about it," he said, pocketing the card. "That's all I'm asking." She stepped back, giving him space. "Now let me get out of your way so you can get that filing cabinet out of here." Derek loaded the cabinet onto his hand truck and started the careful process of getting it down 3 flights of stairs. She followed at a distance, not talking this time, just making sure he didn't need help. When they got to the truck, she signed the return paperwork without any drama. "Thank you," she said as he was closing up the back of the truck, "for being cool about everything. For not reporting me or making this weird." "Nothing to report," Derek said. "And for what it's worth, I hope things get better. With the divorce and everything. Thanks." She smiled, and it was genuine. "Maybe I'll see you Saturday?" "Maybe," Derek said, even though he was pretty sure he wouldn't go. He drove away feeling different than he had on Tuesday. Less shaken, less uncomfortable. She'd apologized for real. Explained herself without making excuses, and then just talked to him like a regular person. It was the kind of interaction that made Derek remember there were good people in the world. The business card stayed in his pocket for the rest of his shift. That night he pulled it out and set it on his dresser. Saturday was 2 days away. He probably wouldn't go. It would be crossing some kind of line, wouldn't it? Blurring the boundary between customer and something else. But Friday night, Derek found himself looking up the rec center online. It was in a decent neighborhood, publicly accessible. The community art class was listed right there on their schedule. Free and open to all skill levels, just like she'd said. He looked at the sketches on his phone again, the ones he'd shown her. When was the last time someone had looked at his art and seen actual potential instead of just a hobby? Saturday morning, Derek woke up earlier than usual. He told himself he was just going to drive by the rec center, see what it looked like. But he found himself parking in the lot at 9:55. Through the glass doors, he could see a room with easels and people setting up. He sat in his truck for 5 full minutes, arguing with himself. This was weird, right? Going to a class taught by a woman who'd basically hit on him while he was working. But she'd apologized. She'd been genuinely kind yesterday. And it wasn't like she was inviting him to her house. This was a public class with other people around. Derek grabbed his phone and an old sketchbook from his glove compartment. Before he could talk himself out of it, he was walking through those doors. The room was exactly as he'd pictured it. About a dozen people of all ages setting up at easels and tables. And there she was, arranging supplies at the front, wearing paint-stained clothes again, but in a way that seemed purposeful this time. When she saw him walk in, her whole face brightened, but she didn't make a big deal of it, didn't call attention to him. She just smiled and gestured to an empty easel near the back. "Glad you could make it," she said simply. "Grab whatever supplies you need. We're just getting started." Derek set up his space, feeling the eyes of a few other students on him, but not in a bad way, just curious. As the class began, he found himself relaxing into it. She was a good teacher. Patient, encouraging, but honest when something needed work. She moved around the room helping people, and when she got to Derek, she treated him the same as everyone else. No special attention, no awkwardness. They were doing figure drawing, working from reference photos she'd brought. Derek surprised himself by how quickly it came back to him. The feel of charcoal on paper, the way you had to see shapes instead of things, the satisfaction of getting a line just right. 2 hours passed faster than any 2 hours had in a long time. As people started packing up, a few of them came over to look at Derek's work. An older woman told him he had a good eye for proportion. A teenager asked if he'd gone to art school. Derek found himself actually talking to these people, feeling part of something for the first time in months. As he was cleaning up his station, she approached with 2 cups of coffee from a thermos she'd brought. "Peace offering," she said, "for all the weirdness of our first 2 meetings." Derek took the coffee. "I think we're past that now." "Good." She took a sip of her own coffee. "You're really good, by the way. I wasn't just blowing smoke. You should keep coming to these classes." "I think I will," Derek said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. They stood there for a moment, just 2 people drinking coffee in an art room, and Derek realized this felt normal, natural. Like maybe, just maybe, something good could come from that awkward mattress delivery after all. Derek didn't go back to the art class the next Saturday. He told himself he was too busy, had errands to run, needed to catch up on sleep. But the truth was he was scared. Not of her exactly, but of what it might mean if he kept showing up. Where would this lead? What was he even doing? But throughout that week, he kept thinking about the class. The feel of charcoal on paper. The way time had disappeared while he was drawing. How good it felt to have people actually appreciate his work. By Friday, he'd convinced himself that it would be stupid to give all that up, just because he was overthinking things. So the next Saturday, he showed up again. And the Saturday after that. Before he knew it, a month had passed and he was a regular at the community art class. The other students started to know him by name. The older woman, Patricia, always saved the easel next to her for him. The teenager, Chris, started asking him for advice on shading techniques. And her? She was just the teacher. Professional, encouraging, treating him the same as everyone else. It was exactly what Derek needed. No weirdness, no tension, just art and learning and casual conversation during water breaks. After the 4th week, a few people from the class started going to a coffee truck that parked near the rec center. It became a routine. They'd pack up their supplies, walk over as a group, and stand around drinking coffee and talking about their projects. Derek found himself looking forward to this part almost as much as the class itself. She usually came along, but she didn't dominate the conversation or make it about herself. She'd ask Patricia about her grandkids, listen to Chris talk about his plans for art school, discuss technique with an accountant named Ron who was trying to learn watercolors, and with Derek she'd just talk. Normal stuff. How was his week? Did he see that new exhibition at the downtown gallery? Had he tried drawing from life instead of just photos? It was during one of these coffee sessions that things shifted slightly. Most of the group had already headed out, and it was just Derek and her standing by the coffee truck. She was stirring sugar into her cup, and he was watching people walk by on the street. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "And you can totally tell me to mind my business if you want." "Sure," Derek said, bracing himself a little. "Why'd you really drop out of art school? I mean, I know you said money, but was that the only reason?" Derek took a long sip of his coffee, considering how much to share. Money was a big part of it. But honestly, I think I got scared too. Scared of what? Of not being good enough, I guess. Like when you're just drawing for yourself, it's whatever. But when you're in school, surrounded by all these talented people, getting critiqued constantly, it starts to mess with your head. I started questioning if I had what it took. And when the money got tight, it almost felt like an excuse to quit before I failed. She nodded slowly, not rushing to respond. I get that. I almost quit too, actually. 2nd year of college, I had this professor who basically told me I'd never make it as a professional illustrator. Said my style was too juvenile, too whimsical, that if I wanted to be taken seriously, I needed to completely change my approach. What did you do? Almost believed him. I spent 6 months trying to draw in this serious, realistic style that wasn't me at all. My work got worse, I was miserable, and I seriously considered switching majors. She smiled at the memory. Then I had this other teacher who pulled me aside and said that the world doesn't need more artists who all draw the same way. She told me to draw what makes me happy, and if people don't like it, that's their problem. Smart teacher. The best. And she was right. The style that Professor hated? That's exactly what got me work. Turns out children's book publishers love whimsical. She looked at Derek directly. I'm telling you this because I see something in your work. Raw talent, yeah, but also a perspective that's uniquely yours. Don't let some old fears keep you from pursuing it. Derek felt something tighten in his chest. It's not that simple, though. I've got bills, responsibilities. Can't just chase a dream. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow. I'm saying don't give up on it completely. Keep coming to class. Keep drawing. Take one online course if you can afford it. Baby steps. She crumpled up her empty cup. Anyway, that's my unsolicited advice for the day. Take it or leave it. They started walking back toward the parking lot. The conversation had gotten deeper than Derek expected, but it didn't feel forced or uncomfortable. It felt like two people who understood something about each other. Hey, he said as they reached their cars. You want to grab actual lunch sometime? Not just coffee after class, but like real food? He watched her expression carefully, trying to read whether he'd just made things weird again. But she just smiled. Are you asking me as a friend or as something else? Because I need to know where we're at here. Derek appreciated the directness. Honestly? I don't know. I like talking to you. I think maybe we could be friends? But I also don't want to mess up a good thing if this gets complicated. Fair enough? She leaned against her car. Here's what I think. I like you. I liked you from the first time I met you, obviously, even though I handled that in literally the worst way possible. But I also know that how we met makes everything complicated. So maybe we just, I don't know, see what happens. Get lunch, keep it casual, no pressure. No pressure, Derek agreed. Just lunch. Just lunch, she repeated. There's a taco place about 10 minutes from here. Best tacos in the city, I swear. I love tacos, everyone loves tacos. That's what makes them perfect. She pulled out her phone. Give me your number and I'll text you the address. They exchanged numbers and Derek felt like he was crossing some invisible line but couldn't quite bring himself to care. He'd spent so long being careful, being professional, keeping everyone at arm's length. Maybe it was okay to just let something happen naturally for once. The taco place turned out to be a truck in a parking lot with a few picnic tables set up around it. She was already there when Derek arrived, waving him over to a table she'd claimed in the shade. I ordered for both of us, she said. Hope that's okay. I got a variety so we can share. They spent the next hour and a half just talking, really talking, not just surface-level stuff. She told him about her marriage, how she'd gotten married too young to someone she'd known since high school, how they'd grown into different people, how the divorce wasn't angry or dramatic, just sad, two people realizing they didn't fit anymore. Derek told her about his family, how he was the youngest of four and the only one who hadn't finished college, how sometimes he felt like the disappointment, even though nobody ever said it out loud, how his mom still introduced him as the one who was going to be a graphic designer, like his current job was just temporary, even though it had been 3 years. My friends think I'm crazy, you know, she said, stealing one of his chips. For even talking to you after how we met? What do you mean? I told them the whole story. The mattress delivery, what I said, all of it. And they were like, that's so inappropriate, you basically hit on someone who couldn't leave, what were you thinking? Which they're right. It was inappropriate, but Derek could tell there was a but coming. But I also told them about you coming to the class, about how we've been getting to know each other, and they're worried. They think there's like some kind of power dynamic thing or that I'm taking advantage somehow. Derek frowned. Taking advantage? You're not my boss. You're not paying me. We're just two people. I know that. And you know that. But from the outside, it looks like I hit on the delivery guy and now we're hanging out, and people have opinions about that. She paused. Does it bother you? The way we met? Honestly, at first, yeah. It was awkward and uncomfortable and I didn't know how to handle it. But now? Derek shrugged. Now it's just a weird story. I don't feel like you have power over me or whatever. If anything, me being a guy probably balances that out in society's eyes, right? Maybe. She didn't look entirely convinced. I just don't want you to feel pressured or obligated to hang out with me. I don't. I'm here because I want to be here. Because you're interesting and you get the art thing and you make really good recommendations on tacos. He gestured at the empty plates between them. These were incredible, by the way. That made her laugh and the tension broke. They talked for another half hour before Derek had to leave for a family dinner. As they walked to their cars, she turned to him. So we're friends now? Officially. Officially, Derek confirmed. Friends who met in the weirdest way possible, but friends. I can live with that. Over the next month, they settled into a comfortable rhythm. Art class on Saturdays, lunch at the taco truck after, occasional texts during the week sharing art they'd seen online or complaining about their jobs. She introduced him to more art stuff, galleries he'd never heard of, online tutorials that actually helped. He introduced her to better coffee shops and told her which neighborhoods to avoid during rush hour. Derek's coworkers started noticing he seemed happier. His supervisor even commented that whatever he was doing, keep it up, because his customer service scores had never been better. Derek didn't mention that what he was doing was remembering that he was more than just his job. His sister noticed too. "You seeing somebody?" she asked one day when he stopped by her place. "No, just made a friend," Derek said. "A friend who's got you smiling at your phone all the time. It's not like that." "But you want it to be like that," his sister said. She had this annoying ability to read him. "I don't know what I want," Derek admitted. "It's complicated. Everything's complicated until it's not." "Does she make you happy?" "Yeah." Then stop overthinking it, but Derek couldn't stop overthinking it. Because the truth was, somewhere along the way, his feelings had shifted. She wasn't just the teacher from art class or the woman from the awkward mattress delivery. She was becoming someone important to him, someone he looked forward to seeing, someone whose opinion mattered, and that scared him more than anything. It came to a head on a Saturday after class. They were at their usual table at the taco truck, and she was telling him about a commission she'd just landed for a major publisher. She was excited, animated, her hands moving as she talked, and Derek just sat there watching her, realizing he was in trouble. "You okay?" she asked, noticing his expression. "You got quiet." "Yeah, Derek took a breath. "Can I be honest about something?" "Always. This friendship thing. It's working, right? Like we're good?" "We're great," she said, but her expression had changed, become more guarded. "Why?" "Because I don't want to mess it up. But I also can't keep pretending that I don't feel something more here." The words came out in a rush, and maybe you don't feel the same way, and that's totally fine, I can handle that. But I needed to say it because it's been eating at me. She set down her taco, wiped her hands carefully on a napkin. Derek's heart was pounding, convinced he'd just ruined everything. "I feel it too," she said quietly. "I've been feeling it for weeks. But I didn't want to say anything because of how we met. Because of what people might think, because I already made things weird once, and I didn't want to do it again. So what do we do?" She reached across the table and took his hand. Just held it there in broad daylight in a parking lot surrounded by other people eating tacos. "I think we stop worrying so much about how this started," she said, "and we just let it be whatever it's going to be." Derek looked down at their hands together, dark skin and light skin, fitting perfectly. "People are going to have opinions. Let them." She squeezed his hand. "I don't care how we met anymore. I care about who you are, and who you are is someone worth taking a chance on." Derek felt something unlock in his chest, some fear he'd been carrying around for too long. "You're worth taking a chance on, too." They sat there for a long moment, just holding hands across a picnic table, while the world went on around them. And Derek thought that maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something real. The first time Derek met her friends, he knew they were sizing him up. It was a Friday night at a wine bar downtown. The kind of place with exposed brick and drinks that cost twice what they should. She'd invited him to join her friend group's monthly get-together, and Derek had spent way too long picking out what to wear. There were 4 of them sitting at a high table when Derek arrived. She waved him over, smiling in a way that was meant to be reassuring but only made him more nervous. The introductions happened quickly. 2 women around her age, both married, both watching him with expressions that were polite but cautious, and one guy tall with glasses, who shook Derek's hand firmly and said he'd heard a lot about him. "All good things, I hope," Derek said, trying for casual. "Mostly," the guy said with a slight smile that could have meant anything. They made space for Derek at the table, and for the first 20 minutes conversation was careful. Surface-level questions about his job, how long he'd lived in the city, what he thought of the weather lately. Derek could feel the real questions underneath. "Who are you? What do you want with our friend? Can we trust you?" One of the women, Jennifer, finally cut through it. "So you're the mattress delivery guy." The table went quiet. She looked at Derek over her wine glass. Not hostile, but definitely direct. That's how we met, yeah, Derek said. And that doesn't feel weird to you? The whole situation? Jennifer, she said, a warning in her voice. What? I'm just asking. We're all thinking it. Derek took a sip of his beer, considering his response. It was weird at first. Really weird. But we've gotten to know each other as people, not as customer and delivery guy. So no, it doesn't feel weird anymore. But there's a power dynamic there, Jennifer continued. She basically hit on someone who was working, who couldn't just leave. That's not okay. You're right, Derek said, surprising them. When it happened, I didn't know what to do with it. I was uncomfortable. But she apologized multiple times and we moved past it. And now we're here because we choose to be. Not because of some weird obligation. The guy with glasses, Michael, leaned forward. I'm going to be blunt. She's our friend and we care about her. She went through a really rough divorce and we don't want to see her get hurt or make questionable decisions because she's rebounding. Michael, she said, her face flushing. No, let him talk, Derek said. He appreciated the honesty even if it stung a little. Look, I get it. You're protective of her. That's what good friends do. But I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I like her a lot. And yeah, maybe the timing isn't perfect. Maybe how we met was awkward, but that doesn't make this any less real. The third woman, Rachel, who'd been quiet this whole time, finally spoke up. What do you see happening here? Long term, I mean. Derek looked at her, sitting next to him, looking mortified but also curious about his answer. Honestly, I don't know. We're still figuring it out, but I know I want to keep seeing where this goes. She makes me want to be better. She got me drawing again, thinking about my future differently. That's worth something. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. She told us you're really talented. With art, I mean. I don't know about talented, but I'm trying. He's being modest, she interjected. He's genuinely good. Like, could actually make a career out of it good. The conversation shifted after that. Became less interrogation and more actual getting to know each other. Michael worked in tech and had opinions about everything. Jennifer was a lawyer who told entertaining stories about difficult clients. Rachel taught middle school and bonded with Derek over dealing with difficult people in service jobs. By the end of the night, Derek felt like he'd passed some kind of test. Not with flying colors maybe, but enough. As they were leaving, Jennifer pulled him aside while the others were saying goodbye. I was hard on you in there, she said. But I meant what I said. She's been through a lot and we're protective. I understand. But I can also tell you care about her. For real. Not just because she's pretty or available or whatever. So I'm willing to give this a chance. Jennifer paused. But if you hurt her, you'll have to deal with all of us. Derek couldn't help but smile. Fair enough. In the car on the way back to her place, she was apologetic. I'm so sorry about Jennifer. She came on way too strong. She cares about you. That's not a bad thing. I know, but still. The whole interrogation thing was embarrassing. Derek reached over and took her hand. It's fine. Actually, it was kinda nice. Knowing you have people who look out for you like that. She squeezed his hand. Do you want to come up? Just to hang out, I mean. We could watch something or just talk. Derek knew this was a moment. Up until now, they'd kept things public. Coffee shops, restaurants, art classes with other people around. Going to her apartment felt like crossing into different territory. Yeah, he said. I'd like that. Her apartment looked different than he remembered from the delivery days. More lived in, more personal. Art supplies covered one corner of the living room. Paintings and sketches hung on every wall. Books everywhere. It felt like her. Creative and slightly chaotic, but in a good way. They ended up on her couch with tea, talking until almost midnight. About his family, her divorce, what they wanted out of life. Derek told her about his nephew who wanted to be an artist too. How he'd been thinking about mentoring him. She told him about a children's book she was writing herself. Not just illustrating, and how terrified she was that it wouldn't be good enough. Can I ask you something? Derek said at one point. And you can tell me if it's too personal. Go ahead. That first day when you said what you said, did you mean it? Or was it just a weird moment? She was quiet for a bit, thinking. Both, I guess. It was definitely a weird moment. I wasn't in a good headspace, I'd been alone too much, and you were kind and attractive, and I just blurted it out. But yeah, I meant it. There was something about you that caught my attention immediately. What? I don't know exactly. The way you smiled, maybe? It was genuine, but also a little guarded. Like you'd learned to be careful with people. And your hands. This is going to sound weird, but you had these strong, capable hands, but I could also tell they could be gentle. I noticed you were careful with my walls when you were bringing the mattress up. She laughed at herself. Listen to me, I sound like a character in a romance novel. I think it's nice, Derek said, that you pay attention to details like that. What about you? When did you start seeing me as more than just the weird customer? Derek thought about it. Probably that day with the filing cabinet. When you apologized for real and showed me your art. You were vulnerable but not weak, if that makes sense. And when you looked at my drawings, really looked at them. Not just to be polite, but because you actually cared. That meant something. They stayed on the couch talking until Derek's phone buzzed with a notification, reminding him he had an early shift the next morning. Reluctantly, he said he should probably go. She walked him to the door. Thanks for tonight. For dealing with my overprotective friends and for just being you. Thanks for inviting me. Derek hesitated, then decided to just go for it. He leaned in and kissed her, soft and brief. When he pulled back, she was smiling. Took you long enough, she said. I was trying to be respectful. I know. That's one of the things I like about you. She kissed him again, longer this time. Text me when you get home? I will. The next few weeks were probably the happiest Derek had been in years. They fell into an easy rhythm. Art class on Saturdays. Dinner at each other's places during the week. Random texts throughout the day. She came to watch him play basketball with his friends one evening, and he went to a gallery opening where her work was featured. They were building something real, piece by piece. But Derek started noticing things too. Small things that bothered him more than they should. Like when they went to a restaurant and the waiter assumed they weren't together, bringing them separate checks. Or when they were walking down the street holding hands and people stared a little too long. Or when his coworker made a comment about him dating up, and everyone laughed like it was a harmless joke. She noticed him getting quieter about it. One night, lying on her couch watching a movie neither of them was really paying attention to, she paused it. What's wrong? She asked. And don't say nothing because I can tell something's been bothering you. Derek sat up. It's stupid. If it's bothering you, it's not stupid, it's just people look at us sometimes. Like they're trying to figure us out. And I know it's because we're an interracial couple and I should be used to it, but it gets to me sometimes. Has someone said something to you? Not directly. Just little things. Looks, comments that could be innocent but probably aren't. That waiter last week who acted like there was no way we could be on a date together. Derek ran his hand over his face. And it's not just that. Sometimes I wonder if people think you're slumming it or something. Dating the delivery guy. Derek, no. Don't do that. I'm serious, though. You've got your career taking off, you're educated, you own your place. And I'm still delivering furniture and living in a rental with 2 roommates. She turned to face him fully. First of all, there's nothing wrong with your job. You work hard, you're good at what you do, and you're taking steps toward your goals. Second, I don't care what people think about us. I really don't, and you shouldn't either. Easy to say. I know it is. And I know I can't fully understand what it's like for you. Being a black man dating a white woman in a world that still has issues with that. I'm not going to pretend I get it completely. She took his hand. But I do know that what we have is real. And anyone who has a problem with it can deal with their own issues because we're not changing who we are for them. Derek wanted to believe her. What if your friends are right, though? What if this is just a rebound thing for you? Is that what you think? I don't know what I think sometimes. She was quiet for a moment, then got up and went to her bedroom. She came back with a sketchbook and handed it to him. Open it. Derek opened the book and found himself looking at drawings of him. Lots of them. Sketches from art class, more detailed pieces of his hands, his profile, him laughing at something. She'd been drawing him for weeks, maybe months. I don't do rebound art, she said softly. I only draw things that matter to me. People who matter to me. So yeah, maybe we met at a weird time in my life, and maybe how we started was unconventional. But this isn't casual for me. You're not casual for me. Derek felt something loosen in his chest, some knot of worry he'd been carrying around. He pulled her close and she tucked herself against him. I'm sorry, he said, for doubting this. You don't have to apologize for having feelings. That's what we do, right? We talk about this stuff instead of letting it fester. When did you get so wise? Probably around the same time I hit on my delivery guy, she said, and they both laughed. They stayed like that for a while, just holding each other. And Derek thought that maybe this was what real relationships looked like. Not perfect, not without doubts or fears, but honest. Two people choosing each other despite the complications, because of each other.